Did Jesus teach that we should hate our mother, our father, our brothers, our sisters, our wives, even ourselves? Did Jesus teach that we have to hate them in order to be his disciples? I'll give you the short answer first, but we'll also break it down to see if there's any nuggets, culture, context, why he's saying this, and what does it mean for us today. I've seen this scripture popping up several times and causing confusion for some people who don't really understand the context. And out of context, you read that Jesus is saying, hey, you must hate these people in order to follow me. What did he mean by that? Did he teach hate? In Luke chapter 14, starting in verse 25, the scripture says that, and there went a great multitudes with him, and he turned and said unto them, if any man come to me, and hate not his father, and mother, and wife, and children, and brethren, and sistren, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. And whosoever doth not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. What did he mean by that? The Greek word here for hate is the word miseo, and it literally means to love less. So the word hate here in the translation is not really a good translation. In reading the Bible and understanding the scripture, we need to read the context. So most of the time, verses like these are taken out of context and we don't know who they're talking to. Many times we read and we think that everything is projected at us. But Jesus was actually having supper with the Pharisees and experts in the law. While they were at supper, a certain man came unto them who had an ailment. And Jesus looks at the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, and he asked them a question. He asked them if it was lawful to heal on the Sabbath. And it should be a simple question, right? But it says they held their peace and they didn't answer. This is a simple question. The teachers and the experts of the law held their peace and were afraid to answer because of what the Pharisees might say, and it would obviously prove that Jesus was right. So the experts of the law, knowing what to say, held their peace and didn't say anything. So Jesus goes on to give them parables about what he was really saying. Jesus is sitting at supper with the religious leaders, and then he gives a parable about a great supper that's coming up. And he speaks about a master and about a servant who went and called these great people to come to the banquet, to come to the supper. The servant goes out to get people to come to the banquet, and he calls them, and he says, no, I need to be excused. I can't come. I actually just purchased a plot of land, and I've got to go watch it and cultivate it. That's verse 18. He's not taking up his cross to go. He's planted there. Verse 19. Another one that they try to go out and get, these great men. And he said, no, I just purchased 5 yoke of oxen and I've got to train them. I can't come. May I be excused from this supper? He's too busy. Verse 20. The next man says that he just got married, so he can't come. May I be excused as well? He's too busy, right, in his life to come to this banquet. They're too good to show up to the banquet. They're too important. Maybe they can't be seen around some of the other people that are at that banquet. And the scripture goes on to say that none of these men who were called, they all were called, but the chosen were few. None of them will be able to sit at the table of the Lord and be at that banquet. So they've got so much going on. They're so busy. They got too much to do. The parable goes on to say that the master of the house bids the servant, hey, we need We need people to be here for this banquet. Go out and get whoever will come. Go out to the poor. See if the poor will come. Get the maimed. Get the halt. Get those who are afflicted. Go to the blind. See if they'll come. We need to fill this great supper up. And those who we had in mind, they're too busy. They got too much going on. They're not able to take up their cross. So the servant goes out and finds people who are, mind you, according to the law, disqualified. They were disqualified. They were maimed. They were sick. All of these things against them, reasons why they can't be used by God and sit at that table. And the master says, go get them. Who were they disqualified by? By God? No. By the Pharisees and the religious leaders. So the servant goes out and gets all of these people and brings them in, all of the rejects. And the master says, quick, we need more. We need more people. Go out to the highways, go out to the hedges, and bid the people to come in. We need more people. Go get them. Again, the people who were qualified, we thought, they don't want to be a part of that. It's those who were disqualified, those who were counted out, rejected. Those are the ones who, it was such a blessing. Thank you for inviting me. This supper, this great feast that was getting ready to take place, this is the marriage supper of the Lamb. That's where they were being called to. That's where the chosen were to sit at the table with Christ. But these people were too busy. They loved their lives. They loved their livestock. They loved their lives more than they loved God. And by virtue, they were not worthy to be called a disciple. Jesus is sitting at the table with people who were called, but they chose tradition. They chose their career, so much so that all they had to do was speak up and speak truth, but they kept it to themselves for fear of rejection. You know, many times in following Christ and becoming a disciple, it's going to be an inconvenience. When you have an opinion, when you have a standard that goes against the majority, it's an inconvenience to speak up, even though you're right. And so the question is, do you love the opinions of others more than you love Jesus? More than you love or long to be a disciple? Listen, you must leave what is normal. You must leave what is familiar in order to follow and be a disciple. Why? Because literally they would have to pick up their cross, pick up their stake, and travel. But they just bought land. You have to be willing to go and be led of the Spirit to follow Christ. This verse is not telling you to abandon or to hate your family. What it is suggesting is that in the midst of that, you speak truth. You let it be known that you are a disciple. You let it be known that you don't join in certain conversations. You don't laugh at certain jokes. Yeah, you're going to seem a bit peculiar, a bit odd. You're going to stand out. But that's not just because you're called. It's because you're chosen. You know, part of this inconvenience right now, people are being called to do things that are inconvenient. They're being called to change their diets. Eat something that the family don't eat. Become vegetarian. Fasting. Your routine begins to be shaken up. It begins to change. Many of you are being called in the wee hours of the night. During the night watches, you're waking up at 2, 3 a.m. to pray to intercede when you may have work the next day, you may have obligations, maybe your spouse is asleep. Many people have a family that caters to this and they understand. The whole family is hearing from the Spirit. The whole family is following God. But the majority don't. For the majority, it's an inconvenience. The scripture says that any man who has put his hand to the plow and looks back is not fit for the kingdom. This chapter goes on to say that we are to count the cost. Count the cost of discipleship. Verse 25 says that, and there went great multitudes with him, and he turned and said to them. So he's got followers. He's got plenty of followers. Great multitudes of people following him. But this isn't about followers. This isn't about having a calling. This is about making disciples and the cost of discipleship. Many are called, but the chosen are few. So what's happening? God is calling you. God is molding you, preparing you to be a house, to be a temple, to be a disciple who is one who can house the presence of God. You can steward the things of God. You can carry it. Listen, Jesus is here to help you. He didn't just throw you the reins and leave you as an orphan. No, but you're being prepared. You have help. You have friends in high places. You know, some of us love the opinions of men. We love praise. We love money. We love applause. We want to be seen. We want to be liked. Many of us, it's part of our nature, but we must crucify that nature in order to be disciples. The Spirit of God is looking throughout the entirety of the earth, looking for people who would say yes, looking for those that he can wake up at 2, 3 a.m., who will actually get out of bed, hit your knees, begin to pray. People who will look up a scripture when you hear it whispered in your ear at 3:30 in the morning. It's these little things that God is trying, that God is testing to see who will say yes. Are you a follower or are you a disciple? God, I pray that each one of us can meet you halfway and choose you, that we can say yes to you when it's an inconvenience, God. Lord, that you would use my friends, you would use whoever's listening to this who would say yes under the sound of my voice. You'd use them to do great and mighty things in your kingdom, that they would prepare hearts, that they would be able to prepare souls that would want to seek after you, that would want to say yes to you. And God, for those who have been struggling with condemnation and guilt, because maybe they've denied you many times, over and over and over, just like Peter. Lord, but your grace is sufficient, that you keep no record of our wrongs, and your mercy is new every single morning. God, I pray that they experience your grace even now, in Jesus' mighty name. God, that you would touch them, Lord, that you would do such a work in their hearts even now. Cleanse them from all unrighteousness. Even now I pray in Jesus' mighty name, God. Let them know that they are not to be people of bitterness, children of wrath, or of hatred, but people of love, of peace, and of light. In Jesus' mighty name, receive, receive, receive. I hope that helped you just a little bit. God is doing amazing things in the earth right now, and he needs your help. Say yes. Then say yes again. Keep saying yes. Keep showing up. He's going to do great and mighty things through you that we're going to be talking about for all of eternity. Mark my words.